So tasers are a huge issue in the Rashard Brooks case, and they really came to a head because of two separate cases out of Atlanta. And in the Rashard Brooks case, the DA, in charging the officers, one officer with murder, basically said that Rashard Brooks, with the officer's taser, did not pose a threat to the officer, a threat of serious bodily injury or death. Okay, but 2 weeks earlier, he charged some Atlanta officers for using the tasers, and in his press conference, he said Georgia law says that tasers are deadly weapons. So you have the DA in one press conference in one case saying they are deadly weapons, in another press conference in another one saying they didn't pose a threat to these officers, which left a lot of questions out there. So Julie Grant took a closer look at it, and they're really defined as less lethal weapons. So it's obviously not a gun, but it's still considered a lethal weapon, but it's less lethal officially. So the question is, how does all of this impact what happened in the Rashard Brooks case with Garrett Rolfe? The officer is now charged with felony murder. Let's bring back in our think tank, Monica Lindstrom, Holly Waltman, Jamie White with us. Holly, let me start with you. And you know this DA better than all of us. I mean, it's right where you practice. Tasers. An officer is, if an officer is being threatened by a deadly weapon, then they're justified in using deadly force. But so is or is not a taser in Georgia a deadly weapon?
Well, Vinny, you hit the nail on the head here. Georgia law allows prosecutorial discretion in these type of cases. This very same DA has indicted, prosecuted, and convicted people for using deadly weapons like these, fists, okay? So can a taser be a deadly weapon? Absolutely. If I grab it and I go to shoot it and it malfunctions and I turn it around and I hit someone over the head right in the temple, that is a deadly weapon. That necessitates perhaps an aggravated assault charge. So can a taser be a deadly weapon? Yes. What really happened in this particular case comes down to police training, police procedures, and then prosecutorial discretion. Do I think what happened was correct? That's going to be determined, I think, in the election later this year for him. But we'll see. But yes, they can be deadly weapons with Georgia law.
All right, Jamie White, how do you see this in the Rashard Brooks case, where he's got the officer's taser, the officer has a taser, but he's also got his gun. He pulls the gun out of the holster, and after Rashard Brooks fires the taser at him, he fires his gun at Rashard Brooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I think we have to be careful not to have too much accountability to the masses. When we start talking about tasers without the specifics associated with the event, sometimes we might fall prey to bias. In this particular case, the DA, he did talk about the fact that he did not believe there was a threat, but also in his charging decision, from my recollection, he talked about the behavior after the incident. That I think he indicated he did think went to the officer's mens rea. In particular, after Mr. Brooks had been shot twice in the back, the officer kicked him, multiple times while he was down. And reports are that he was using racial epithets. There's further reports that instead of administering CPR initially or rendering any sort of aid, that he simply just hovered over the body until such time as other police officers arrived. So I agree with Holly. I think that, billy clubs, boots, fists, anything is a deadly weapon. And, in this particular case, under a different set of circumstances, I think the officer would have been justified, arguably. But here, we have the weapon's been discharged. He's running. He has his back to the officer. There's two officers, one man, and he still chooses to deliver 3 bullets, 2 which strike Mr. Brooks in the back. And I think that's unreasonable under any standard. Now, clearly, the defense is going to argue that this was, they're going to go for that mass appeal, that this was a deadly weapon. End of story. We can't look any further, and we'll see what the judge and jury has to say about that.
And I just want to note that the defense has come out and made some statements, some written. They're disputing the kicking, and they also said the time between the shooting and rendering aid was 56 seconds, not the 2 minutes. But we'll see. We haven't seen the videotapes. There are 8 videotapes that the DA has, but not all of them have been released yet. So I guess that's one of the factual points of contention that may make the difference here. Monica Lindstrom, does the taser become the key issue in this entire murder charge against Officer Rolfe?
I don't think it's the main issue. The main issue will be in just that split-second decision of what the officer did, because under the law, he has to feel threatened in order to use deadly force, and his use of that deadly force has to be proportionate to what he's seen. So the focus in the trial will actually be in that split second, what the officer was thinking, was it reasonable, that kind of stuff. But what I think we all need to focus on is here going forward, how are we going to classify this taser? You brought it up earlier. It's less lethal, but that's how are officers going to know what to do here? So I think not only each state individually, but we probably need some national guidance in this so it can be consistent across the country. Yes, everything can be a deadly weapon. Are we going to allow officers to use it? And if they've been trained to use that over a gun, are we going to punish them for using the taser? Are we going to take the guns away? Can you use your gun against someone with a taser? I think those are questions that are going to come out of this incident, and they're being talked about right now. So will a jury decide that? No, I don't think so. I think legislators